Welcome to the London Horror Movie Club. I'm horror writer Lauren Jane Barnett.
And I'm Chris Sapikowski, Lauren's older brother, and I've been watching horror movies since I was 8.
Join us as we talk about the wild, weird, and wonderful horror films set in England's eerie capital.
Welcome back, everybody, to London Horror Movie Club. We're really excited today to have Dan Brownlie with us. We're going to interview him. He's done movies such as The Tombs, UK Haunters, which is a documentary, anthologies like Virus of the Dead, London Horror Story, Grindsploitation. These are some of the ones that I wanted to talk about a little bit.
Hang on, I've done London Horror Story. What was that?
You did Two's Company in that. Do you remember?
Did I?
Oh,
IMDb
did I make a
thinks you
mistake here?
did.
I'm going off of IMDb. Am I wrong on this?
Yeah, I don't think I did that. I did. There's a fun fact. I did a film called an anthology called Three's a Shroud, which I executive produced and did a couple of sections of. That won 2 awards. I actually did another one after that called Sin, which stands for Self-Induced Nightmares, because it's watching horror films, but also making horror films. What we put ourselves through is a self-induced nightmare. But that was originally, if Three's a Shroud did well enough. Three's a Shroud had 3 main stories. Sin had 4 main stories. If Three's a Shroud did well enough, the next one's going to be called Four's a Massacre. And I was going to continue up. And that one had 4 stories in it. But yeah, neither of them did particularly well. So, hey ho.
Well, no, let's go into that, because one of the things that I was gonna ask about was, and I've not seen this, but I've seen some of the stuff, and I've kind of looked at where I can watch other ones, especially here in America. But the Self-Induced Nightmares was definitely one that's on my list that I wanted to kind of watch. I like anthology films.
It is very low budget. Very like the section I did the wraparound, which was a nice logic, but it's okay. The section I actually put in was a film called Bear Scary, which was my first ever funded film, and some rich guy just gave me 1,500 to make a film. And I love killer toy films. I'm actually fucking obsessed with them. I've actually, do you know, I keep, if I did this on my phone, it'd be easier. I've got props all around the house. I was like, do you know, I'll show you one of them. There you go. I'll do this quite a lot because I have crap everywhere. But where is it? It starred this fucker called Cookie Dough. I see people on podcasts and go, well, I can only get the angles right. Now I'm watching it, I can fully understand. There we go. Yeah, who turns into this and goes on a killing spree with the babysitters. And it was, I love it. I think it's fucking hilarious. And I also have, I don't know who that was, but a lot of my props have random directors' signatures on. Like the killer's mask from The Tombs was signed by the director of Necromantics, or Necromantic, because when we did our publicity stunt at Fright Fest, he was there signing, and I've got nothing to sign. Oh, but I've got this mask and this stunt I've been doing, and that was a mask used in the film. So the mask in the film is actually signed on the back by the director of Necromantic.
Wow.
That's amazing. You know, I was gonna ask. I obviously really enjoyed The Tombs. I know that it's one of those films that you see similar things, people taking on an attraction that you know, you get a chance to make it horrific even more so than it is already. How did you come across it though as a film location? Why did you pick it?
I was at a press night. And I was pitching films with a company I was working with who ended up being a sack of shysters. And they had an idea for a zombie film there, and I had another idea. And then we split. We basically just pitched at the same time. And the guy who, he's not a guy who runs it, it's the guy I assumed run it, was a manager called James Kingsbury. And he basically liked my idea more. So that was it, really. Just completely stumbled. The thing is, because as a massive Haunt fan, none of my friends are, so I didn't know about it, which is why I did UK Haunters. Because when I was chatting to one of the guys who worked there, this guy called Cookie, he was telling me about the haunt scene in the UK, and I was like, I didn't know any of this, and I live for haunts. And that was the point of UK Haunters. There must be an army of me out there who don't know they exist. So I did that documentary for those people. Anyway, slightly sidetracking. That's I do this a lot. Yeah, it was just happenstance. And when I was there, I thought this place is fucking amazing because the production value. Everyone assumes it costs a ton because of production value, and it's like it's just the tomb's lit.
Does that make, as far as like locations go? I mean, do you get the idea in your head of like what you want to do, and then if try to find a location, or does the location kind of drive your thought process on that?
All depends. Three's a Shroud, for example. Three's a Shroud was originally, I just managed to get my hands on a house. I rented it, but it was me and my partner were the only people who lived here, and I thought, shit, we have a house. We could do a horror film here. And the original point was each section was meant to be a story of the house. So the point was the babysitter comes in and she's babysitting this kid, and the logic originally was telling stories about the history of the house, and each one was meant to be a separate section. Now there's something I never told the other directors, but I gave them a rough flavour of what I wanted. And that's why if you watch Freezer Shroud, the first one's meant to be 70s, the second one's meant to be 80s, and the third one's meant to be 90s. Now, I didn't tell them this, but their style kind of led to those. Like the third one is super polished 90s, the second one's really grindhouse and rough, and the first one was had quite 70s feel to it. So that was a case of, I have the location, why the hell not? But it can work the other way around. If I've got a really good idea, I might go, shit, how could I manage? What would I need? But because I'm always my budgets go from UK horn that's cost $3,000, Tombs was 150. So I'm so used to super low, my brain kind of naturally thinks of single locations or cheap locations or locations that are easy to get.
Gotcha.
No, that makes sense. Out of curiosity, do you have like then an ideal location you'd love to film in that the budget hasn't been there yet, or it's just been impossible? Like, and no budget, no problems. Where would you want to film?
I would really, really fucking love to do another haunt one without the restrictions of the Tombs. I'd really, really love that. I'm a huge found footage fan, and I've got the basic premise in my head of how it would play out, how it would go. And I've actually got someone who, I don't know if I helped him out. I keep him doing, I just do shit, random bits every now and then connect. And I've had so many people go, oh, thanks, man, it's really cool. I've got a haunt. If you ever need it, let me know. But then I'm thinking, oh, no, I'm going to need a budget for that. And that's where the problem comes in. So I kind of had a seed of an idea for one. Halloween Horror Nights I'd love to do. And apparently someone actually did one once, but it was very, very low budget. But they tear the sets down, and this filmmaker, I don't know what person he spoke to, but apparently the HHM people said, oh yeah, I talk really fast. If I'm waffling, tell me to slow down. They basically said, yeah, you've got 2 weeks before it gets tear down, but it wasn't promoted like that, which is why I hadn't heard of it till HHN cast member told me about it. And I thought, what a waste, because HHN is such a huge thing. I would love to do an HHN anthology, much like Dr. Terror's House of Horrors and that sort of stuff, where maybe like each haunt has its own story. So maybe like they do a behind the scenes tour and they go into one haunt and it branches off to that story and the next one, and then the end of it, they're trapped there forever, sort of thing. That would be awesome. I would absolutely fucking love to do that.
Would you be able to tell, because a lot of our listeners might not know Halloween Horror Nights, would you be able to like tell us a bit more about like what it's like, what the atmosphere is like?
It is Halloween. It is American Halloween, and exactly what you think it is. It is very high production value. There's different zones that have different themed scare actors and prop specific and music, and it's like Willy Wonka for horror fans.
Oh, that sounds fun. I used to be a big fan of going to the scare farms, scream farms. We have a lot of those out here where you kind of go out to someone's land and it's just the haunts there. My kids are a little younger and they do not like them as much. So have taken a break on that. But I want to go back to something, and I might have misunderstood what you had said there, but you would talk about the restrictions of the Tombs, or doing the haunt, but without the restrictions there. Is it just what the restrictions are of using like something that is already there as a business, or is it a restriction that Like what kind of restrictions do you find when you're using the haunts as a set?
It's not it was the artistic restrictions from the powers that be, because
Okay.
the exec of the Tomb, I think he's a great human being, but he's an exec. So as much as I get along with him as a person, and even now, like, funny enough, he actually phoned me not too long ago saying, I'm doing a sequel to the Tombs, do you mind? And I was like, well, I want to direct it. He said, no, I've got someone in mind to do it, but I'm asking you out of politeness. And I was like, man, you didn't have to do that. That's really cool. So as a person, I really understand. I really get along with him. But the trouble with execs is they're very prone to influence of people who are worried about the money. So if someone, like, for instance, there's fuck all gore in it. Now, the guy who ran the Tombs said, I don't want sex, I don't nudity. And I was like, neither do I in films. I did a film about a base and babe station where we had to have people topless, but even then I was kind of like, it's not really what I want. But he said, you can have as much gore as you want. You can have people disemboweled, you can splash blood at all, I don't give a fuck. But at some point, the exec, while filming, the exec turned around and said, oh, I can't sell gore. So he can't have gore. And I was like, well, guy kind of get an axe in the stomach. So the scene is, the guy gets an axe and falls out. And I was like, and he said, well, I tell you what, we can't do on-set gore because you didn't have the budget or time for it. We'll do it post. And it gets to post. Now, no one likes post gore because there's a bunch of articles on the internet by fans ranting and raving about how much they hate it. And it's like, they hate nothing more. You know what I mean? It's got, like, it might not look as good, but nothing just. So there's a lot of restrictions like that where they're very influenced by the money men going, ooh, and then they'll get a bit panicky. Like, I'd have conversations where he goes, Dan, I don't know horror, you do you? And I'm like, oh, thank fuck yes. And I'll storm on, and then the next day I'll be like, actually, no, this doesn't work. And I'm like, well, why? Oh, because someone told me such and such. So you kind of get these lumped in, and it just gets a bit very, very frustrating. But there's like one point where, have you seen the Tombs?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I have, yes.
Right, you know the blonde girl outside?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, that was shot 2 years after we filmed it because they cut it from the script. There was two things cut from the script that really bugged me. That was one of them, and I was like, it's the entire fucking foreshadowing of the entire film. You can't cut it. It's like, well, you know, we're going to have to. And it gets to the point where you just, oh, okay. So we filmed it. 2 years later, it's like, you know what, Dan, I've been showing this to people, and yeah, they don't get what's going on. It's 'cause you cut out the entire fucking plot. That's why. You cut out the fucking plot. So that's why the girl, Jess, who was my wife at the time. Anyway, long story. When she's outside, that's a wig because she'd had black hair and then spent like a year trying to slowly bleach it out without losing all her hair. And they were like, you've got that black hair. She's like, I'm not dyeing my hair that black for a day's shoot. Bollocks. So that's why her hair looks so shoddy. It's a wig because the whole outside explanation was shot 2 years later. And that's kind of a good example of the disjointed logic that they can have. And I appreciate it. They worry about money. They have investors. So I don't take it personally. It's they have people to please. So they're very in tune to what they're saying, but it doesn't always match up with the artistic realism of what you actually need to push it forward.
Do you find do you find you have something similar happen when you're writing? Because you've written several scripts as well, and then they end up in, you know, so many other hands get onto a script. Does it change quite a lot from what you originally planned?
I don't know, because I wrote my section for Three's a Shroud, which I think is my favorite of everything I've done because I funded it all, I wrote it, and I directed it. So with the skill I had at the time and the equipment I had at the time, it was absolutely fucking spot on. It was really. Also, it always used to annoy me because I was like, I'm a huge horror fan, and my favorite film that I've done is technically a thriller.
What's the film?
Three's a Shroud. It was a section called Don't Open the Door. And what's really fascinating about it is after I wrote it and watched it, it was actually about my relationship at the time because we were having really bad communication issues. And when I watched it back, and went, oh my God, this is my relationship. This is, you know, and it really fucking blew my mind how subconsciously I basically poured it out, which is why the next film I've done, because I did a couple of slash films, I did a lot of fun shorts, but the next film I've written, which I'm trying to get funding for now, is deeply, deeply personal because the slashes I've done, they're cool, you know, they're good. I like them, especially, you know, well, I like one of them anyway. But what really, really worked was personal. So for this next one, I just dug deep, and it's basically about the passing of my dad in a very roundabout. Like, you'd never know, but people who know me who've read it have gone, fucking hell, Dan, that must be really hard to write and reread and reread. Like, yeah, it's fucking torturous. But it's because it's so personal. But that personality, that me that's in there, is why the people who don't know or didn't know me around that time have read it and gone, oh, that's really fucking good. It's because it's a personal thing. Slightly sidetracked again.
No, that's what is your favorite genre to shoot? Like, what if you could write and direct and you had a big budget and no execs to worry about? Like, what is the genre of horror film that you would want to shoot?
I am an absolute found footage whore. I love found footage. The trouble with found footage is, because it can get done so cheaply, it gets lumped in that, well, we haven't got a lot of money to do it found footage. But when done correctly, it is fucking amazing. It is so, like, I actually think, what was the film called? I'm blanking out on screen. Out in COVID times, all set on the computer. It was a Shudder exclusive. It's one of my favorite films ever. And I can't remember it.
Is this the one where everybody's on the video call and they slowly start disappearing?
It was Host. There we go. Host.
Okay.
It is actually a perfect fucking film, to the point where it's only 55 minutes long, because that's how long you're allowed on Zoom at the time. And the fact is, it was done during the pandemic. So all the things we were starting to learn, like the funny backgrounds, they were all used for scares. So they're all very, very, very fresh. And because, well, we're filming this now, you know, we are very much, especially post-pandemic, we are very much YouTube people. Like, I don't watch terrestrial TV. I watch Shudder, sometimes Netflix, and the rest is YouTube shows. So found footage really ties in to the fears of literally now, because it's something we're so comfortable with. And that's the good thing about horror. It's why people go camping in the 80s, whatever, get fucked up, because camping was a massive thing in America. It's literally using our most comfort. You're in your home. I'm here, I'm surrounded by all my junk. I've got Chucky dolls there, I've got my props there, and that's where the horror happens. And it's just, and also the other thing, it is so personal. But you've got to allow it to be personal. Like, some people go, ooh, Blair Witch is someone screaming. So, well, don't fucking watch it then. Because, you know, if you're going to have that attitude, you're not going to get into it, you're not going to like it. But if you are interested and you get into it, it is the most, it's almost VR. And especially like Host. I watch Host, I watch Unfriended, I watch them on a computer screen, because that's what it is. It's a computer. It really brings it home. So if the next film, the film I've written is a found footage one. It's very, very Host-like.
Do you want to tell us a bit more about it? Because you've told us a little bit, and it's quite a good little teaser.
Yeah,
do you want to tell us more?
I read this before I wrote it. I read a book called Save the Cat. The guy said one of the best pieces of advice that ever gave me was give me something the same but different. And I sort of went, fuck, that makes so. Can you swear? I swore a lot, but I was about to swear. But
yes,
yeah. And I was like, fuck, that makes so much sense. You look at like slasher films, and you think like Terrifier, that's absolutely blown up. It's the same. It's an 80s slasher, but you've tweaked it slightly, and that's the way to really grab people. So it's out there stuff is really good, but unfortunately, I'm too bloody low level to out there. I've got to do something that draws people in, especially when you're looking for funding. So my idea was about someone doing an online game of D&D via Zoom, and then everyone's in cosplay and everyone's getting into character, but as it goes on, the stuff they're doing in the game actually starts affecting the players. And what I actually did was all the spells, I don't know how accurate it is, I use Google Translate, but I actually wrote down what I wanted the person to say and translated into Latin. So all the spells are actually Latin, but it says, and it's quite good because obviously someone's up to no good within there. But again, it's that, who do you trust? They're your friends. Why would your friends do this to you? And it's, again, very, very personal setting. And it's also explores the fact that it's on screen and anyone could just go, I'm done. How do you keep them there? Because one character, it would be ages before anyone actually sees it if we're getting made, but one character gets locked in the room, so the others can leave, but they're kind of there to support her. So it's the mechanics of how do you keep this interesting because if they could all leave, they'd all just go fuck this and go. And it's how to keep them. And if something happens to someone, how do they help them? Because at one point, someone goes, "Go help them." It's like, I don't know where they live. We just meet on Zoom and play D&D. I don't know. Where do they live? Do you know their last name? No, you know their screen name. So it was a very interesting mechanics to play with, to how to keep the tension and the logic of the film of why would they stay there? Why would they be there till the end? So yeah, it was a hell of a lot of fun. It's about, I think, about 6-7 months to write, all in all. But yeah, I'm really proud of it.
Are you guys working on that now, like shooting now, or
shooting out? No, well, I got offered another film, and actually I got offered a few films. Really frustrating. Every film I got offered, something went wrong, and we got a perfect one. And the guy went, right, okay, we're doing this. He put in the pitch. The guy accepted the pitch. And he said, right, okay, I want to make a couple of differences. I just want to check the writer's okay with it. And he came back and said, oh, the writer wants to direct it. And he was like, I've got a director. And the writer was like, no, you can't have it then. But he offered me another one, and I went, yeah, I like this one, but how about this one? He's going to shove it across the table. But by the time that happened, he started another film, and I'm just waiting for him to get back to me. But the whole point of this was I wrote it specifically that I could shoot it myself to a point. Like if I could get $7,000 together, like, you know, I don't know how one gets $7,000 these days. I'm so out of the loop with funding. But yeah, it could be done super, super cheap. Even if you get it in a bag and then go, look, we need the extra for the post effects sort of stuff, then at least the storytelling is very wordy. It's everyone on a screen. So it's the drama will really hook people in. You can say, look, we just need this much more to get the effects right.
Man, there's a lot that goes into that. I would have never guessed before, like talking with you or even like Tony, like just like what goes into, especially on the indie side, right? Like, I mean, I know it's probably all across, but you guys worry about so much stuff and have to pull in so much responsibility. It's crazy. What was the first horror movie that you watched that got you into horror?
My dad was I can't say the fucking word, entrepreneur. There we go, did it. Hey, win for me. Dyslexia win. He just did loads of random shit because he had his main job and he just thought, I'll try this will be a laugh. And he basically, for a brief time, maybe a year or so, run a mum and pop video shop, but from the house. So in my dad's office, there was literally, like in room there, I have a wall of horror DVDs, and it's because that's what I always wanted. So I remember my dad's office was just all these films, and the horror films were at the top. And I bugged him. And it got to the point, it's like, right, if you have nightmares, it's your own dumbass fault. It's a life lesson. So I can remember Ghoulies, which scared into my 20s, I was a nervous pooer because of that fucking film. Like, and I'm a grown-ass human being, but the thought of that thing coming up and biting your ass just absolutely spun me out. I remember that one. I remember watching Madman, which everyone says is crap. I think it's fucking amazing. It is such a cool film. And The Howling, and later on, I think The Blob, the 89 one. They're the ones I remember clearly. Then they terrified me, and I went back a bit, and I went into Vincent Price stuff, which I'm a huge 60s, 70s Hammer horror fan. And then about 13, 14, I was around my mate's house in Sweden, and he just rented out a VHS player and just all the Freddy films and put them on, and I was back in it again. But I had these rules, and what got me into gun, I've always been an artist. I love creatures. This is why this fucking is it. Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Yes, I've got a little shrine up there because I actually make I make toys every now and then as well. Another sidetrack. But my rules were, where do they come from? How do they kill, and how do you kill them? Which is what I liked about a lot of the weird sci-fi things. There's always kind of like they came from this or they came from that, or it was a radioactive thing, and I always killed people in different ways, and they had to die in a different way. And that was Killer Clowns from Outer Space. They come from outer space, makes perfect sense. They kill people in a variety of ways, and you kill them by bursting their noses. And that was kind of it was the logic to horror, which I liked. It wasn't the scares. It was like, oh, what's that do? How do they do that? How did they make that guy look like his arm ripped off? How did they make that person look different? How do they do this? How do that? So, yeah, again, sidetrack.
Is that why you got so excited to work with the teddy bear as one of your first films? Because you like the toys.
Yeah, Demonic Toys, I absolutely love. I'm a huge Charles Band fan. Unfortunately, he did what Troma did, where they started off doing, they were hot on their sleeve, low budget films, but they got to a point where people liked them because in a tongue in cheek way, and they started leaning more and more towards tongue in cheek, and that's kind of where I find a lot of Troma and Full Moon stuff is now. And it really pisses me off because like the old Demonic Toys is fucking ridiculous, but it was awesome. You know, of course, like a baby oopsie daisy puppet killing people was stupid, but that's what made it so cool. So yeah, so when I actually got the chance to make one, I was like, I'm doing a Killer Toy film. Like, then I can tick it off my list because I always had three goals when I first ever started film. Slight sidetrack. My mate Mark was in the pub and he said, Dan, I'm going to make a film. Do you want to help? And I was like, oh, fuck yeah. Because then making film was what other people did, like this magic thing that these very, very lucky few people managed to do. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, this is awesome. So I found out my friend who made independent films. And I was like, oh, my mate's just asked me to help him film. What do I do? She said, okay, first question, do they have lights? And I was like, of course they have lights. They live in a house. And she was like, so I have a fucking question now. Anyway, what was the question? I was sidetracked and got skedaddled.
We were talking about doing the teddy bear, but you were telling us about sort of how you getting into the films. I think how you got into it.
Yeah, and the house we shot it in. I mean, the film was. I've still got the Ouija board over there because it's called Ouija and it was signed by everyone who was involved. But the person who had the house said she was making porn films. And she was like, Dan, I don't know what it is about you, but there's something. Stick with this. So I was like, fuck it, yeah, right. So I started writing this insane story about toys because I thought, do you remember Werebears?
I don't. Do you, Chris? Do you know Werebears?
No.
What are Werebears?
Yeah.
They were 80s toy, and they were just cute bears. But you'd pull back the head, and there was a scary thing underneath. You'd pull back the soft paws, and there's claws underneath. And I was actually going to use that. So that's how low budget I was thinking. And so I managed to bump into someone who was like, oh, I make toys. I'll make you some bears. And that's why this one, in every film I do, this is in there somewhere.
Oh, where was he in the tombs? I don't remember.
In the tombs, in the scene where it's the manager and the guy who runs the cameras, when you see facing the screens, he's behind them. In UK Haunters, just before I sit down to the intro, he's behind me. So from then on, it's in every single film.
That's great.
Yeah. That was it. That's where my sidetrack went. I had three goals. I'm not sure if it's linked at all, but I might as well go on about it because I'll pop my head later. There was three goals when okay, right, I'm linking it now. There was a point. When after that thing happened with Mark and this woman said you should stick with it, I had three goals in my head, and that was get one of the Chioda brothers to design something for me. They're the guys who directed and created Killer Clowns from Outer Space, Critters, and a bunch of other stuff. To work with Debbie Rochon, which I did, and she's fucking amazing, and to do a Killer Toy film. So when someone said, like, yeah, well, I'll give you $1.5 grand to make a film, I was like, right, well, what's the easiest one? Killer Toys.
Well, now you have to tell us how you managed to get goal 2. What was
goal
that?
2, I was working with a guy who had previously worked with another awesome actress called Susie Lorraine, and she was in Three's a Shroud, and she had another film role which was bigger and more money, and she said, look, do you mind if I change the dates around? So like, I said yes to you first, so that, but I was like, fuck it, I mean, shooting in my house. I mean, I redecorated it. Like the room I'm in now is the kids' room. I just redecorated and shot it so it looked like a bedroom. And because of that, I was just very understanding. We really got along. And I think, that was it. I cheekily said, you can do it as long as you get me something signed by Debbie Rochon. As a joke. I didn't know they were really close friends. And she was like, all right. And then when I was doing another film, a slasher film, I basically sort of said, do you think she'd be interested? And she was like, here's her email, I asked. And she said yes. And it was just like, it was seriously, the film, oh God, the film I'm going to have to apologize for one day because it did not age well. And I tend not to call it by name in all fairness. But working with Debbie in the final scene of that film has still been my favourite film experience ever. She was absolutely fucking amazing person to work with. It was so cool.
That sounds awesome.
Is that one of the best parts about filming, is just the people that you're meeting? I mean, I obviously you're telling your story, but like, have you met a lot of just friends and like lifelong friends from the process itself?
Have I? I don't know. Well, I kind of met my wife, but she's divorcing me now, so maybe that's not such a I've met a lot of lovely people through that. Like, I've got a friend in Jason in America who worked for Horror Hound magazine, and through film, I met him, and then I wrote for Horror Hound magazine, which is my favourite magazine at the time. I mean, it costs so much to go over here now, I just can't afford to read it. But so that was cool. And now I've got a lifelong friend out of that, and it has opened doors and built my confidence to say yes to more random things. Like now, if someone, within reason, if someone says, "Do you want to do something?" I tend to say yes, because I'm like, you don't know where it's going to lead. Fuck it, why not? So, yeah, I mean, I've met a lot of people. I've met more people that I don't like than the one that I have liked. But it is definitely contributed a lot positively to my life, a hell of a lot. Just the ability to do it, because I mean, my friend Eva, the one who was talking about the lights, she said, and I've heard this a lot since, that you can go to film school, you can make a film, and you learn the same thing. So I mean, I sometimes go, when I've been on sets, I kind of get, sometimes I was like, shit, man, do I belong here? Because I haven't been to school, I haven't learned this. But then I was awful in school. I can't regurgitate information. That's not how I work by doing things. Like at the moment, I'm working on a play for Tattoo Art for Havering Council, not for Havering Connect and Havering Council. Was it Havering? No, Havering Changing. I always get it wrong. Because they said, "Do you want to do it?" And I went, "Yeah." And my brain's going, "You don't know what the fuck you're doing." But I knew as soon as I got my foot through the door, I learned like that. And I developed like, and now they're like, "Hey, Dan, move on to the next project." And it was the same with film. Once I got in, like that girl, from literally not knowing what film lights were, she was like, "There's something about you, stick with it." So film has helped my confidence grow to the next thing, random thing. I go, yeah, why not? But it's definitely better. I've made a lot of friends. I've met a lot of cool people. Like I remember, because I was writing for RM magazine, when the guys who run it, I was invited as a person rather than a guest. So I just got to chat to Henry Rollins.
Wow.
And Mick Garris. Like I had a chat with Mick Garris about Masters of Horror and why it went pear-shaped. What
did he say?
He said execs. they basically, the whole point of Masters of Horror was, you've got all the freedom you want, we'll give you this money, you pick the filmmakers, they do what the fuck they want. And he said basically it's like more and more restrictive. So then they changed it to Fear itself to see if they could kind of find some middle ground. And he said it was just too restrictive and it wasn't the point of what I created. But you could probably find that on an interview. That's not the point. The point is chatting to me as a dude, not a fanboy. And that's so, those sort of things as a horror fan are so fucking cool. I mean, they're priceless. And that was all because I just started making films.
You're talking about learning on the go. Do you remember like a really big lesson you had to learn in your first film?
Yeah, lights. Literally, she said, "Have they got lights?" And of course they have. They live in a house. Like, duh. And she was like, "Oh my god, no, don't like film lights." But what are they? Yeah, just everything. It was a massive eye opener because it was. I mean, I'm talking about mates making a film. When you say mates making a film, we talk to filmmakers. They're like, "We could do a good job." I mean, like proper. No one had a fucking clue what they were doing. And what I did when I first went in was I tried to do everything. Now, the lights ended up being a lamp on a stick. The sound, we'd actually managed to get a crappy microphone, but I did every single job. Like I've edited, I've done sound design, I've done special effects, I've exec produced. I started off doing absolutely fucking everything. So I had kind of like a baseline knowledge of everything. And then basically see which one I gravitated to. And to me, that was directing, which is why I started. I mean, I even tried, and that's why, you see, I'm not sure if they show up well. Yeah, like some of those masks. Like, there we go. That one. Is that one? Like I made masks just to see how you can make masks. Which actually, that one, or should I say this one? is the pumpkin face killer at the opening scene of the Tombs. And fun
Oh.
fact, that was me. I actually appeared in the film several times. Sometimes as Teddy, but originally the pumpkin face killer. But yeah, the point is I did everything just to get a baseline. And also I think it's continuously a learning curve. I'm a great believer in the day you stop learning, fucking give up. There's always more, especially with the way technology increases. And like even stuff like haunts, like you go to haunts, you learn a lot about how to shoot a film and what scares people. And that's one of the good things about if you're not doing a film and you're like in horror, going to haunts year after year, because they develop scare tactics, which are very, very good to translate into film. But one of the best ones I've seen was, I think was it Alton Towers last year, where I came in as something like that, and they boom, and just disappeared backwards. So it wasn't a jump scare because they're already there, but in the back of your head up, when's the fucker going to pop out again? And I was thinking, that would be cool in a film. So always learn.
Would you work at a haunt? I'm just curious. Like you like to tell a story. Would you want to ever be in the situation where you could work at the haunt, even for just like one night?
Well, I actually, it was not last year, the year before. There's a really cool escape room company called No Escape. I'm not sure it's No Escape London, No Escape, but definitely No Escape. But yeah, I was just basically doing horror themed escape rooms, and my missus was an influencer, so she got invited to test drive one of them. I mean, got speaking to the owners and ended up actually doing a Halloween overlay for their haunts. So I actually got to rewrite the story for the escape rooms, get scare actors, train them, but also my main job, because as much as no one likes to admit it, we have main jobs, is in care. So my health and safety is on fucking point. So I literally designed the entire layout. Right, you stand there, so if you scare people, they're not going to hit you. The door. So yeah, so I've actually created a haunt. I did the decoration, did the effects, did everything. Scare acting, I have been offered. I just haven't got around to it. I'm not sure if I would or not. Could be interesting, maybe. I'm not against it, but you know.
No, that's pretty cool though. I mean, you got to work with. I mean, you got to design it all out, to write it all out. Like you're doing it. You don't have to put the makeup on and stand there, but you kind of did everything else there. So
Yeah.
Just curious.
Yeah, no, it was again such a lovely experience, because it's like one of the things I'm doing now is I might be directing a horror play. So I just like telling horror stories, and the haunts
Right.
are just another horror. So each room had its own story.
When you were doing UK Haunters, was there one that you went to where you thought, whoa, like that particular one stood out?
There were lots, because again, I didn't know UK haunts. Now the things about the difference in UK and American haunts, and I haven't. Trouble with saying American haunts is America is bigger than fucking Europe. So even though I've been to a lot there, I still consider it a very generalized opinion because it is so massive. But the US ones tend to be bigger and flashier. The UK ones, and this is just my experience, tend to have more ingenuities behind them. And that's what I liked about doing a documentary is you had ones that kind of leaned a bit more to the American side, but you had ones that were just like our space productions were really good. They had, I think it's called Death Cell, and it was based in the post-apocalyptic future, almost like Battle Royale, where you just get nominated to go to this place, and that's essentially where you die. And you got the letter like 2 weeks before you turned up. So the haunt started before you even arrived. And I thought that was genius. Then you've got, oh God, I've been blanking on the name. What's his name? The really extreme one. I'm gonna feel so bad about blanking on names. I always goddamn do this. I'll find later, and please just put a footnote in it because they're amazing. But they did really extreme ones, and I was really against extreme ones. I didn't like. I was people touch you and fucking. I'm not about it. It's not about this.
Right.
But again, my logic was if I cover his UK haunt scene, I'm going to cover everything. I'm not going to be picky because then it's biased. And the whole point was go look at what we have. But one of the guys there was his mum died of cancer, and he went and it fucked him up, and he was a heroin addict, and he was like, "Damn, I was fucked. I mean, I would have been dead, but I discovered, and I really wish I knew the fucking name of the place now. I discovered these haunts, and the extreme haunt gave me the buzz the heroin was giving me, and it literally helped me get off heroin and saved my life. So this extreme haunt that a lot of people in the scene sort of look down and go, well, literally saved someone's life. So it's still not for me, but it's like, wow, how fucking powerful was that? You know,
Yeah.
but each one I covered kind of had their own thing, and that's what's so great about it.
No, how did you find them all?
Again, it was a guy called Cookie. He basically, he was just shooting the haunt scene, and he worked at the Tombs, and he was telling me about these during the very little downtime I had when I was like packing up at the end of the night. So as director, I always think you should be first on set, last to leave. It's just so while everyone was getting ready, I was chatting to him. And he said, "Oh yeah, I know this person, that person." Blah, blah, blah. So once the Tombs had finished, and I had a meeting with him and said, "Look, man, it'd be really cool if we could put this together." He's like, "Yeah, do you know, I'll have a word." So yeah, don't think yet. Let me have a think about it. And I got home and he'd added me to a group with all these haunts going, "This guy's doing a documentary." And I was like, well, I'm fucking in it now. So it's just
That's funny. What movies? Okay, so I want to go back real quick, and I sorry I didn't get this in there. We were had a good conversation going, but would you recommend? I have people in my life, friends of mine, adults that do not like horror movies, have not watched horror movies. They will not. They don't want to be like. They had the preconceived notion that it's going to be too gory, too whatever. Is there a movie out there that you would recommend to somebody that is going to give it a go, but they haven't watched a horror movie yet? I mean, I don't know if you could do Ghoulies as the first horror movie for everybody, like, so is there a movie that you would recommend for people to kind of broach the subject if they would like horror?
It depends. I find a lot of people like horror who don't know they like horror. Because I'll chat. My first reaction, and I should really stop it, is when I say, "Oh, do you like horror?" They go, "No." I go like, "Who? What's wrong with you?" But also, people who say they don't like horror, I'm like, justify that statement. No, I don't like horror. It's too scary. Seven. Like, what? Yeah, I loved Seven. Horror film. Silence of the Lambs. I love it. Horror film. No, it's not. It's really cleverly written and blah, 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 blah. It's like, it's a cleverly written horror film. They're like, no, it's a thriller. So no, The Pelican Brief, that's a thriller. Seven is about a serial killer killing people in the way of the 7 deadly sins, and they're not fucking shy about showing at least a psychological aftermath. It's scary. It's a fucking horror film.
Yeah, it's funny. I have a daughter who's high school aged, and she likes horror movies, but I've kind of backed off a little bit because I feel like I'm pushing a little too much. Like she likes some of them, and then we started going down routes of we don't like gore, we don't like serial killer themed, so it's more like the haunting and stuff like that. But then my son won't watch anything he does not like scary movies. Like he likes Halloween and that's it. And he only likes Halloween because they remade them recently, and now all the kids in middle school were all about Mike Myers. So he decided to gut it out, which I think is how most people start watching horror movies, at least in my experiences. Somebody at school watched it. They were kind of cool. You want to watch something that's a little taboo, and then you start watching it, and then you know, get through it. But I always like to hear other people's opinions of what they would start out with. But I really like your explanation of like Seven's a perfect example of like, yeah, it is a horror movie, right? It's a serial killer and it's showing graphic things. And I know people that would never give, other horror movies, Nightmare on Elm Street or Mouth of Madness or stuff like that, like really time of day. But Seven, they're like, this is great. This Kevin Spacey was great, and Brad Pitt was great.
I mean, it's that Hollywood system. It's like, what was it? Was it Hereditary? They tried calling a thriller.
Yeah.
Because it won an award. It's horror and I don't know why. And people always say, "Oh yeah, horror is as bad as porn." It's like, what's fucking wrong with porn? Point one fucking example. You haven't wanked over porn and then fucking tell me it's crap. Lying bastard. But it's lumped as a derogatory category, and it's largely because of America. And again, when we think of America, we think of the quite civilized places, the big cities, the ones where people are a lot more open-minded. We think of a lot of America. It's still quite really. I mean, even Florida at the moment is fucking banning books and stuff. It's all gone a bit fucking nuts, and a lot of America still demonizes horror, like the mass of it, and that kind of leaks up through the Hollywood system. It's still considered dirty or wrong. So whenever things become horror, they go, "Oh no, it's a thriller," and I think that leaks down to everyone else. So they go, "Oh no, I like it, but it's got to be. I can't like a horror. Oh God, no, I'm not one of those people. I can't like horrors. I have to like thrillers instead." I think just slightly indoctrinated.
That's true. I think as well, it's not the kind of thing like it's great for us being family members who watch horror, but everyone's just like, you watch horror with your brother? And it's like, yeah. But we talked a lot about like how much we all love horror, and that's obviously why we're on the podcast. But is there anything that's really like difficult or annoying about directing a horror that makes it that bit harder or that more frustrating than, say, a documentary or a different kind of film?
Mm, I've only ever made horror, so I can't say if it's any different doing anything else. But I mean, it all comes with its same. I mean, the fact is, it's the trouble is that the money men have the least vision, and that's really the trouble. And the artistic people have no money, and it is that marriage is what's really difficult. But that goes across absolutely fucking anything you talk. I mean, I was actually at one point I was actually going to make porn just because I thought it would be a cheap way of getting money to then make films. And I looked into it, and apparently it's exactly the same fucking issue. You've still got to raise funds and blah blah blah. So I'm raising funds. I might as well raise funds for a fucking horror film. So it's. I mean, I was lucky with UK Haunters. I funded it myself. It was $3,000. So I was like, fuck it, do it myself. Because it was, I had such not bad time, but I was quite let down by the way Tombs had turned out, by the restrictions I had. That I had all this artistic vision in me, and I literally just needed to fucking throw it at the screen. Has anyone seen UK Haunters?
Yeah.
Okay, right.
I have not yet.
You know the very end, the last scene.
Yeah, the station.
The whole point of it was I wanted to do a documentary, but when you rewatch it, you can kind of rewatch it as a found footage horror film.
Oh, yeah, I can get that.
The whole style of it was to be. I mean, literally, someone once said, "Have you got any behind?" I was chatting to someone who's going to promote it, and said, "Have you got any behind the scenes photos?" I was like, "No, it was me," and I literally sent them a picture of my cat looking at the camera because that was it. So what I'd do is I'd set the lights, I'd set everything up, I'd press record, I'd go in front of it, and I'd speak, and then I'd get off. And when I was interviewing people, I'd say, "Oh, pretend I'm over there and speak to that chair." So it looked like they were speaking to me, and there was a cameraman there, but it was literally all me. Bar when I got done up at, I'm going to start searching these fuckers. This is so shameful. They're all so good as well. I'm so fucking bad with names. Horrify Me. There we go. Remember Horrify Me. When I was with Horrify Me, because I was getting done up like a zombie, I physically couldn't. So I had to get my mate Merlin Robertson to film it because I was getting made up, and I literally also got a funny side story about that. But apart from that, it was literally all me. Even the point of my wife at the time being a producer wasn't really, but the whole one of the gags of the film is I put my producer through hell. So that's why they credited another producer. I mean, she did do stuff. I'm not, she did do, but it was 90% me. But I kind of needed that gimmick that it's a really scary experience. What do you do? I'll send in my producer, and then I'd film her getting fucked up. But yeah, it was largely me. But yeah, the Horrify Me thing, I had the out of body experience. Slight sidetrack, but very, very interesting. I'm terrified of spiders. Like, they flat out fuck me up. And when I went to Horrify Me, when I went to their home, they had like a bookshelf full of Tupperware. And I was like, "What's that?" And they went, "Oh, it's our tarantula collection." And I was like, "What?" So yeah, it's our tarantula collection. And because I'm so terrified of spiders, whenever I get near them, like in a safe environment, I like to try and learn something to overcome my fears. First thing I was like, this is a weird fact about tarantulas. They can live up to 30. There are 30-year-old fucking tarantulas. Oh my God. So if you piss one off, that's a long fucking time that fucker's alive to come back on you. That is scary. Anyway, so apparently tarantulas, as long as they've got food in their place, they don't give a shit. They're not wanderers. They only wander to eat. So they can keep them in Tupperware. So I was like, cool, show me some more. So they were taking the things out. They were lifting the lid and, oh, this is a blue need touch a penis, and this is a red need scratch a face, and blah, blah, blah. And I was carefully looking at them. And suddenly, have you ever seen Doctor Strange?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You know when the head wizard punches him and he flies out of his body? That literally happened to me. I was there just looking at the spider, brain was off somewhere else, trying to calm myself. And I literally went, my vision changed and everything, and I went out of my body and snapped back in again. I had no idea why. But when I came back, everyone's looking like this and looking at each other, all smiling, these big shit-eating grins. I was like, what? Like, clearly on the joke. And they were just grinning at each other. I went, oh my God, Dan, we thought he'd freak the fuck out. And I was like, why? What happened? Looked down and there was a spider husk at my feet. Now, what they'd done is my brain was somewhere else, they went, oh, this is a jumping spider, and then threw a husk at me. It scared me so much, I legitimately left my body. Absolutely fucking 100% legitimately left my body.
Oh.
Which is good,
Nope.
because if I was scared a slight level down, I'd have just fucking flayed and there'd be tarantulas flying everywhere. So it's just as well got scared that much. But yeah, but I literally didn't know. I left, snapped back in, and came back going, why is everyone grinning at me? What's so funny? Very strange experience.
No, I would not be. I would have left immediately. Nope. you
How would
thought the silver lining. The silver lining was I didn't knock it all over.
My soul went, fuck this shit. I'm gone. And just fucking realised it couldn't get very far and snapped back.
Goodness. How would you, out of curiosity, so obviously we love making people afraid, making horror movies, but would you feel horrified if your own film made someone that scared?
Oh, I'd love it. But having said that, I wouldn't say my films are particularly scary, nor do they really aim to be, which is a weird thing I always argue with. When people say define a horror, I always go, but they're horrifying, they're scary, this, that, the other. They're not. Because like Demonic Toys isn't scary. Puppet Master isn't scary. A lot of them aren't scary. There's kind of that horror flavour. And I think that's really what I go for. I go more for entertainment than anything else. But it's that horror flavour. I mean, I don't know, have I actually tried to be scary? No, even my Section 3 found it was a story I was interested in. It was a human interaction, which is again why the latest one, which I've kind of gone, I'm going to stop doing slashers and do something more interpersonal, because it's why Romero works so well. You take out the zombies, you've got human drama. The only reason why it's a horror film is because you've got zombies there, but it's a human drama which makes it interesting. The horror flavour makes it interesting to me. And that's kind of always what you do. And it's the horror fun factor as well. And that's really where I've aimed for with films. I've never really aimed on going, oh my God, this will terrify people. It's like, this will entertain people. It's really what I'm going for.
Interesting.
So it's a bit almost like the haunted houses thing. It's not about scaring the life out of you. It's about being a fun ride, as it were.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so maybe I love haunts so much. Yeah, it's an entertaining ride. That's what it's really about. And story, like my favourite haunts have stories. It takes you for, like, the thing about Halloween Horror Nights is they'll sometimes do films. Sometimes it's 50-50, sometimes the other way. But sometimes they'll do film adaptations. But other times there'll be a story that they've completely made up themselves. And as you go through it, it is telling you the story visually as you walk through the haunt.
That's quite cool. Can you give me an example of one? Is it like haunted houses, or is it like?
It's like there's a really cool one called Graveyard Games, and it was about two punk kids who basically break into the cemetery and just fuck around and end up getting killed. So they start off outside being boisterous, and they've got a spray can, which is just something full of water they spray at you, and they just fucking shut up. And as it goes around, the characters get more and more terrified. And at the end, the last scene is them just like they've been killed and they're all hooked up somewhere, dead. But it's telling you a story. And all the other good thing is you don't have to pay attention to the story. It depends how much you like it, but the story is always there. Or there was one, Seeds of Destruction, which is about basically a bunch of seeds come down from another planet and plants just take over the world. And it's as you go through it, you see how various areas have been affected and the plants themselves evolve. So towards the end, you've got more human-like scares. At the beginning, it's more puppet scares. Or there's another one, Yeti, Terrors of the Yukon. It's about Yetis invading a hut. So as you go through, the people die more. It's just, it doesn't have to be a story. You don't have to appreciate the story to appreciate it, but the story is there for those who like it.
Is that part of why you like writing films, horror films, so much as well? Is the story for you is the central bit?
Yeah, and I didn't write the tunes, but I wrote the premise of it. So even if I don't write it, it was very. I'm not sure how it pulled off, but I like fucking with stereotypes, and I really like fucking with expectations. I think one of the best examples is Alien. Ripley was written for a man. It was a male, and it's only when it got to, and it's quite interesting because in number 2, when she was then a woman, suddenly she was looking after the kid and fighting for the kid, and all the maternal things came in. But originally, she wasn't a final girl; she was a final guy. But she happened to be the best actress, and that's what I tried to do with. I tried it with Bear Scary, to a very crass point. But when it got reviewed by a bunch of Americans, oh, why do girls act like that? Why are they all boyish and blah blah blah? Because I didn't want them to be like girl. I just wanted them to be characters, and it's the same thing with the Tombs. I wanted Piper to just be able to be played by any gender role. So I'm very much into characters and messing with characters. And again, the found footage run I've done, it is all talking. Bar the odd thing that happens, the horror stuff, but it's all the interaction and the sort of control of people and how people manipulate people and how people are forced to do certain things.
Oh, that's really cool. After having done like basically 10 years of directing, has a lot changed in how you have to go about doing it, or about the way that you can tell a story? Or is it basically the same stuff, it's just the kit gets different?
Pretty much the same stuff. I mean, you've still got to find money. You've still got to sacrifice a certain amount of artistic vision. And things that they used to really bug me, but then I started listening to podcasts, especially the Adam Green one, the movie Cribs, and you hear these top directors go, "Oh my fucking god, my budget got cut. The exec didn't want me to do this. They cut this, they cut that." So no matter where you are on a scale, it's the same thing. It's
Right.
just everyone's pushing for how much they get away with and not sacrifice their artistic vision, knowing it has to be sacrificed. Even if you do it all yourself, you will then get budget restrictions. So even if you haven't got an exec to argue with, you've got a bank balance to argue with. So it's essentially the same sort of thing.
Yeah, so there's never an out, right? It's never like you graduate to a space where they're like, here's all the money you want, and we're never going to say anything for it. They're always going to have rules.
Although, funny enough, the guy who did, I think was it Saw 2, 3, and 4? It's a fascinating story. Again, I heard it on the movie clip. He was an assistant in one of the pitch meetings or meeting. And these people were like, "Oh, we need lights." And he went, "I've got lights." And the head of the company went, "Okay, cool." And then carried on the meeting. Then took him into the room afterwards and said, "Don't you ever fucking do that again, or you are sacked. But have you got lights?" The guy was lying, but he went and hired out a truckload of lights and lent them to these people. So then when they were pitching Saw 2, they were like, "We need a director." And he went, "I'll do it." And they were like, "Well, have you got a short?" He went, "Yeah, of course I've got a short." Again, lied, borrowed a bunch of money, shot the short that weekend, and that short was good enough to get him Saw 2. Now, Saw 2 they were so cool with the success of the first one, they actually gave him all the money and all the freedom. And he said he did Saw 2, 3, and 4, and went, "My God, this is fucking easy. I just asked for money and they give it to me and let me do what I want to do." So he left the company for his own film. And then when he did his own film, he said, "I got such a fucking reality bite of quite how much I fluked that luck." And he's like, I really just blew his mind what shit you actually have to go through. But then he did the Tension Experience, which was absolutely fascinating. It was like a year-long haunt experience where you signed up for it. And the way you signed up for it was there was a website. In the website, there was another website. And if you found that there's a bunch of coding, if you could crack the coding, you could find a number. If you found the number, you got invited to this location. And basically what it was, you signed up for this year-long thing where for the whole year, they can come into your life at any point and fuck with you.
Oh my God.
Right? I think it was called a Tension Experience. But yeah, I think he did a couple of them and then went on to do the Repo Generic Opera and Devil Carnival and that sort of stuff. But yeah, really fucking fascinating guy. Who just, it's one of those rare opportunities where someone literally went, "Have all the money, have all the freedom, knock yourself out."
Wow. I need to watch that Tension Experience. That actually would be that would be a great horror movie for me. Like that would be something that would scare me. I don't want I don't know. I want to know when it's done.
Well, it's essentially a game, isn't it? That Michael Douglas game.
Yeah, the game. Yeah, exactly.
But real life. But the thing is, because I was like, I mean, I'm huge on health and safety. I was like, can you imagine health and safety nightmare? But then he got onto it and said, "Oh yeah, like we had to have security guards because these people were having a birthday party and our guys just came in. They didn't always fuck with you, but it was like part of the story, or they can sort of interact with your life." He's, "Oh yeah, no, we have security outside. So if it goes wrong, we need to be able to get our actors out really quickly." So it's just, man, how the guy did it is fucking beyond me. It must have been a logistical nightmare.
Well, I've written the Tension Experience and Host down, and I'm looking forward to the D&D Zoom
Yeah.
movie. Like that sounds, I just watched one recently, and I did think when you were saying you watch them on your laptop or on a computer, I found myself doing the same thing when it comes to movies like that, because it does feel like I'm at work, right? When you're on a Zoom call
Yeah.
like now, and it's just there's something about it. I don't need surround sound for that movie. You want the grainy headphone in, because you're part, it kind of pulls you into the movie. So I'll definitely be watching Host probably
Also,
tonight.
found footage has that one, because the one I'm doing, because it's got to be done so low budget, I'm going to try and shoot it all in 2 days. And everyone's gone, "You're fucking insane." I was like, "But why? You go to the theatre and watch a 3-hour play. You know, you can do it." So I'm planning to shoot it like a play. So literally get everyone cameraed up and just go, "Right, scene, Bert to 20 minutes, fucking go." Because the thing about that is the natural ums and ahs make it more realistic. If found footage is too smooth, it takes you out of it, which is, again, one of the things, that sort of grit, the sort of grit on a screen, the sort of the slight nervousness of people. It's what you are when you're talking to people online.
That's quite good.
Exactly.
And what a kind of perfect way to end a video podcast. So about the sort of the creepiness of what you viewers will be doing, is watching us talking about horror with your headphones in on the computer. I love that. Thank you.
So perfect way to end it would be to say, "Hang on, I hear everything upstairs," and just not come back.
Actually, yeah, you should have like just disappeared on us. Love that. No, thank you so much, Dan. We're really grateful for your time and coming on to talk to us.
Anytime.
Thank you, Dan.
Anytime. Any excuse to talk about horror, all good.
It's been really great. And thank you everybody so much for listening. And we're going to be back on the 28th. We're back to our normal format. So we'll be watching Extra. Chris, have you watched it already?
I have not. I started it. It's completely just crazy. And so I was like, I need to be in a different setting with no one in the house. Like I need it to be just me and this. And I've seen 20 minutes of it, and I'm in. I just need to, it was going to be done this weekend, and it just got pushed a little bit, but I'm really looking forward to it.
I was
Awesome.
about to
Dan, have you
say-
seen Extra?
Yeah, I was about to say, have you seen Extra? Because it is.
Oh yeah,
It's
no,
good.
I
It is.
love Extra though. 80s horror graphic, everything.
Have you seen all of them?
No, I've only seen the first one. I've heard that 2 is worth watching. What did you think?
I can't remember. I bought a box set. I went through a real. Before it was so easy to get horror films, if I heard about something, I'd just go on some mad search for it. And I literally found a box set and watched the first one. Was like, I don't know if I get this.
That's a good pull quote for the next one.
Yes,
I don't know if I
get this. Yep.
Good luck, Chris.
I watched the first 20 minutes and was like, holy, this is just crazy. Like, it's just, there's a lot going on. I was just ready. I'm going to watch it. I'm excited for it. But I also love, one of the things that we do on here is like, we try to pick movies that the other hasn't seen, because watching a first watch is great. Sometimes it's a flat miss, like our last episode with Limehouse Golem. A little bit of a mess, a little boring, didn't know what it wanted to be. It felt like maybe the executives pulled away some of the took away, cut parts that should have stayed in. But I'm excited about Extra. I did see so I've seen, I was going to say, like, your movie UK Haunts is in America is on Pluto, Roku, and Tubi. The Tombs is on Plex and Tubi. And this is where I watch a lot of the films. And I went to go look for Extra, and I was like, I think this is it. And then I realized it was Extra 3. I will not be watching Extra 3. There's no way I'm going to watch Extra 3. No offense to it. I need to see 1 and 2 first. I can't believe there was a.
No, don't. I don't think they're related. I don't think they're related in the slightest. I think you can watch what the fuck you want. But this is one thing. As soon as I find a fellow horror fan, I have this thing of trying to out-weird people with horror films. And if you want some weird suggestions, I've got some. Oh my God, I've got some.
Right. Well, see, now we have to end the episode with that. Give us 2 totally bonkers suggestions with Extra as the baseline of your weirdness.
Okay, these aren't weird per se, as just right. There was a film called, I think it was called Hyenas, which was essentially hyena werewolves. Like, how can you go wrong? Watch the film.
Okay.
Watch the film. Weird wise, I don't know, man. I've got some great titles. There's I think my 3 greatest weird titles is Monster Turd. These next 2 are un-PC as fuck. I work in care, so I shouldn't find it funny. But one is called The Special Dead. And my personal quote favorite is Retarded.
No.
There is a fucking film, and it's exactly what you think it is as well.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, I thought Lamageddon was bad. That's terrible.
All right, Dan, I'm gonna throw a movie at you to watch if you want to go just weird ones. Slacks. SLA.
Please, I've seen that.
You have?
Yeah.
Oh man, Killer Jeans, Canadian. Can't get much better than that.
Oh, Killer Donuts. That's actually quite fun, that one. But
Is it a bit like Killer Tomatoes, but just donuts?
Yeah, but more is better. It was way the production value is better because it's. I like the thing where there's a very fine line with that sort of film where when it knows what it is, you don't want to get like too wacky because then it's just like, ugh. Like, you ever seen Hobgoblins?
No.
Okay, it's not bad, but Hobgoblins 2 is like so like, oh yeah, we've been wacky, and it's just shit. It's just not fun anymore. So I always find if you've got a really, really wacky idea, the more serious you take it, the better it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like I always say, like the people in the film should be taken 100% seriously because the absurdity works so much better. If the people in the film aren't taking it seriously, you don't take the film seriously. But if it's something as stupid as Killer Donuts, if people are actually freaking out and reacting to donuts killing them, it's amazing. It just works. But if they're like, oh no, and being silly about it, you're like, no, I'm out. I'm done.
Yeah, I can get behind that. I like it when people take the ridiculous seriously. But I love a B movie as well. So camp works for me in a big way.
Watch Bear Scary. There you go. Part of Sin. That was the interesting film.
Okay, cool. We've got a lot of good ones on our list, so I think we might just wrap it up. Thank you again from Chris and I to our listeners. Thank you, Dan. If you want to share your thoughts about this episode, please head to our Facebook or YouTube pages. We're grateful to Cucurbit, who made our music. Thank you for listening, and please join us next time for the London Horror Movie Club.